Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. And joining us now to review headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Mr. Efeni.
Good morning, Leila.
How
Good morning, Ruben. How was your weekend?
Good, and yours?
Cool.
Good.
Now, let's start with this day newspaper. The lead story: why states may kick against bid to amend the Land Use Act. Indications emerged at the weekend that the state governors are pulling their acts together to ensure that the proposal to amend the Land Use Act does not see the light of the day. And they have good reasons in their own thinking, because that will mean removing some of their powers, apart from the fact that land administration has become a huge source of revenue for the various state governments. Until now, there has been clamor for review of the Land Use Act. But with the recent Ruga controversy in the mix, a lot of suspicion has been bandied here and there over the issue of amending the Land Use Act, because to many stakeholders, they feel perhaps the federal government is desirous of amending this Land Use Act to have a hold on land where they can allocate as they will, especially in the case of Ruga, which many resisted when that issue was in the front burner. But rested now, the Land Use Act amendment, will it ever see the light of the day?
Well, I mean, this is an old debate. You know, when the land use decree, as it then was, of 1978 was introduced, the whole idea was to reform the various land tenure systems that we had in Nigeria and to encourage, you know, more equal access to land for the benefit of Nigerians. And so, in other words, to ensure access, you know, to land, and to ensure that, you know, once you have access to land, that will also facilitate economic development. So the issue is, as the law, has it been able to meet its original objectives? And the argument for, you know, an amendment of that Land Use Act is based on the fact that after 40 years of implementation, then it's about time to take a second look at it. Some even argue that, you know, this was a law that was made for military governors as opposed to civilian governors, and that the law has to be brought in line with, you know, the contemporary dispensation. There have also been allegations that certain sections of that, you know, Land Use Act, Section 23, Section 28, you know, conflict with, you know, the Constitution, and that this has to be reviewed, and that Sections 29 to 33, dealing with compensation, is also problematic. And, you know, even if you say it for, you know, the original objective was to promote economic development, many banks don't even accept land as a collateral for loans, you know, because of the problems that are involved. Section 1 of the Land Use Act, you know, vests land in governors as trustees. You know, the argument also is that many state governors, they've continued to abuse this, and that governor's consent, you know, should just be restricted to assignment, rather than any governor, you know, sitting over land and saying that he's a person in charge. That Land Use Act also makes provision for the establishment of land allocation committees. But in many states of the Federation, the governors, they don't have any land allocation committee. Yeah. Okay, maybe Lagos is one notable exception, you know, but at the end of the day, he's the governor who does everything himself. Yes. You know, so, but in Lagos, as I said, Lagos will seem to be an exception. So those who are, you know, arguing for an amendment of that Land Use Act are saying, after 40 years, yes, in 1978, there was a lot of activity, the economy was booming and all of that, and you needed to harmonize a number of things. But after testing that law for 40 years, there are issues arising therefrom, you know, that will need to be amended. The federal government, for example, you know, does not have right to any land except in the Federal Capital Territory. So some people even argue, look, the federal government cannot be dependent on state governments when it needs land for, you know, development purposes, or for overriding public interest.
Yes.
You know, so these are some of the issues, but I think, you know, the debate is useful. It's been there ever since, and coming up now in the light of Ruga settlements and all of that. So the debate should continue. But definitely, the preponderance of opinion is for an amendment, you know, of portions of that law to correct the anomalies that have been observed, both in the phrasing of the act and in its implementation.
Okay, so the debate will continue. Let's move on. The Vanguard newspaper, the lead story, presidential tussle. Supreme Court to hear Buhari Atiku's case Wednesday. Hearing notices issued to all parties in the matter. APC files counter appeal, seeks revalidation of tribunal judgment. Similar headline in the New Telegraph. Fresh battle to upturn Buhari's victory. Supreme Court hears HDP's appeal against President today. While the Guardian newspaper, Nigeria's Guardian newspaper, Supreme Court concealed panel on Atiku's appeal till last minute. Even members won't have prior information. Here it holds on Wednesday. Opposition political parties caution judiciary on loss of integrity. After the verdict from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, which reaffirmed the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari, the PDP filed 66 grounds of appeal. And on Wednesday, the hearing of that appeal will commence. We'll keep our fingers crossed. It's going to be legal fireworks. At the end of the day, we'll get the final verdict on the presidential election. Whatever the Supreme Court rules is the final, Ruben and Leila.
Yes, certainly the rule of law must prevail, and all the parties involved, you know, should be prepared, you know, to respect, the ruling of the Apex Court. And after that ruling, whichever way it goes, you know, all parties involved should conduct themselves after the fashion of gentlemen. And I guess, you know, then that would then provide for us an opportunity to further review the 2019 general elections, take stock of lessons learned, observations that have been made both by local and international observers, and then face the larger task of, using those lessons and observations to further deepen our electoral system.
Yeah.
Yes, let's move on to the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story. Why insecurity persists in Nigeria by experts. Rivalry, corruption, oiling crisis. 2.022 trillion budgeted for defense in 5 years. And there is a graphic to that effect in front page of the Daily Trust. Defense budget in 5 years. In 2015, 388.4 billion. In 2016, 429.1 billion. 2017, 467.1 billion. 2018, 580.1 billion. In 2019, 158.1 billion. These are the defense budget. But what this story is also saying is that we seem to have been using the army, whose primary function is the defense, protection of Nigeria's territorial integrity. We are using them for police duties, internal security duties, which should ordinarily be handled by the police and the Civil Defense Corps. And if you look at the ratio of policemen to the population estimated to be about 202 million. By now, roughly one policeman to more than 500 people.
That's not even under police. That is just the complete non-existence of policing, if it's 1 to 500 now.
Yes.
And well, the police, part of the thing they've been looking at is recruitment.
Yeah.
But like all things Nigeria, that in itself has become a source of
controversy
between the police service commissioner and the inspector general of police.
It was 10,000 officers, right, that they were looking to recruit?
10,000, yes. And they conducted the recruitment exercise. And, the inspector general of police said they were going to publish the list. The police service commission kicked that the Office of the Inspector General had usurped the functions of the Police Service Commission. So there you have it, you know, with your concern about the number of policemen that are available. And in any case, out of that, almost 400,000, up to about 100,000 will probably be on VIP duties, helping the wives of important people to carry bags to the market. To and fro.
Actually protecting the spouses and children of
carrying
VIP.
their handbags and doing their grocery shopping.
Well, I think the Senate is looking at the security situation because funds disbursed is yet to match the results we are getting. And I think there needs to be an holistic look into the security architecture, Ruben. Now, let's move on. The Punch newspaper, payroll system controversy. ASU takes battle to National Assembly, meets Lawal Baja. IPPIS October deadline. No pay, no work, union tells federal government. You know I've been insisting, Ruben, on this program, that I don't want to hear that ASU wants the university to be short over this issue, because this is an issue that can be resolved. It's a matter of enrolling your name. You want to dictate to how your employer, through which means your employer will pay you your salaries. I would have thought that as long as your salaries get to your account, anyway, you should be
I hope they will
content.
resolve it, because it's only ASU, you know, the only union in the university system that is kicking. And some other academics are saying they are not part of this and that they embrace IPs. And today, the Congress of University Academics, which is the breakaway faction, is going to make its own position known. So it's not as if there is a consensus generally within the university system over IPs, which we say is to promote transparency and accountability in the payment system. But do you have any foreign papers?
Yes, we'll move over to the Guardian newspaper, the Guardian of UK. EU ready to give UK 3 months Brexit extension, leaks reveal. Now,
Well,
but
yes.
today...
Well, but there's also the talk about election.
Yes.
You know, either by December.
That will be decided today in Parliament.
Yes.
Can Boris Johnson pull to third? To pull
Can
that
Thank
through?
you very much, Emmanuel Efeni.
Thank you, Mr. Efeni.
Thank you indeed. Yeah.